Hey everybody, Pastor Nick here. Just wanted to come back based off the last video yesterday about filters. And again, I was teaching a class on Monday and this came out in the message, and it's interesting how filters work. Yesterday we talked about temptation. Today we're going to talk about offense, how the enemy uses offense to narrow our focus so we only can see life through our offense and only see life through our anger, what makes us upset, and restrict our focus to what offended us rather than all the ways that God can heal us. I'll tell the story. I remember one time they were doing some construction work in my neighborhood. So they were tearing up the concrete, laying some new concrete, paving. And so we were riding through the dirt for about a week. And I remember one time I was on my way to the church. I'll never forget it. I was at a light right down the street from the church. And I looked through my rearview mirror and I said, man, that car behind me is dirty. I was like, man, they need to clean their car. And, I don't know how they let their car come out dirty like that. And then I just happened to turn around and look, and I remembered that I was riding through dirt for the past week. So I said, I can't wash my car every day. I don't want to wash my car every day because it's going to get dirty, going back and forth, etc. It should be done soon. I'll wash it real quick. And I realized it wasn't that the car and everything else was dirty. It was the lens through which I was looking. My back window was dirty. And that shows us how life works sometimes. Sometimes we have some experiences, we have some struggles, and it colors our lens where the only thing we see is the trauma or the struggle or the offense or the pain that we're dealing with. It's not what we're seeing, it's often how we're seeing. And the devil wants us locked up in offense, where we see life through the filter of mistrust, anger, frustration, being jaded, and we let our past guide our future, when our past should simply be a learning lesson and not something that's the guide, or as Bishop says, the blueprint for our future. Offense is a strong feeling. Offense is when it hits you. It feels so strong that, watch this, it can mess up your ability to think logically. When you're emotional, when you're offended, you only think about the thing that hurts you and not the bigger picture. When you're living in offense, the offense in the Greek means a stumbling block. It's something that causes you to stumble. That every time you try to move, your offense causes you to stumble. For example, you got out of a bad relationship and the pain of that relationship is still with you, and you get into a new relationship and try to recreate in the new what happened in the old, or if something happens in the new to remind you of the old, all of a sudden you fall, you stumble because the offense is still living in you. In the Greek, the imagery of an offense is a stumbling block. It's a movable stick, which means it follows you everywhere that you go. Where you can live in New Jersey, live in Atlanta, live in Chicago, live in California. When the offense dwells in you, the offense follows you everywhere that you go. And all of a sudden, you'll have the same issue every place you go, not because of the locations necessarily, but because of the offense that we're carrying with us. Ladies and gentlemen, family, it's time to stop tripping. We used to say that back in the day, stop tripping. It's time to stop tripping. Your offense is getting the best of you. And every time you try to make progress, every time you try something new, your offense gets in the way, you trip over it, and you go back to where you came from rather than progressing forward. We ask God and say, Lord, do a new thing in me. And the whole time God's trying to do something new, we keep allowing past offenses to trip us up so we won't experience the new thing that God has for us. It is time for us to stop tripping. But what the devil wants to do is restrict our focus, where the only thing we see is what hurt us and what make us mad, what made us upset, rather than the big picture of all that God is doing. So the Garden of Eden, real quick, and this is going longer than I thought. The Garden of Eden, real quick. Satan says God doesn't want you to eat of it because he doesn't want you to be like him. He appeals to an offense. And Eve is so restricted on what God is keeping away from her that she doesn't see all that God is doing for her. When you live in offense, you only focus on the negative of your life and not all the positive that's going on. You only focus on the one thing that hurts you and not all the positive things that are contributing to your life. In this life, you will be offended, but it's time to forgive. It's time to let go and not allow offense to restrict how you see life, but let God free you of that offense where you learn to forgive and see the big picture of life. Because watch this, I've learned when you are offended, we live in illogical thought. When we're offended and we're stuck in our feelings, we live in a logical thought process. And we don't often consider the big picture. God is moving in your life, but now it's time for you to stop tripping. Encourage somebody, encourage yourself. When you find yourself being easily offended and you find yourself allowing offense to take root in your life where it's hard for you to move on, tell yourself it's time to forgive and it's time to stop tripping so God can really move in my life the way that he wants to. Forgiveness helps to clean your filter up so you can see life clearly. God bless y'all. See you later.